Hello friends in McKinlay Shire, how are you all? It's Costa here, and it's a beautiful twilight afternoon here in Sydney, and I've been working my compost and doing a little bit of work down here in the chicken coop, and I thought what better time to have a little bit of a talk about chickens, because from what I've been told, Sorry, I just thought something was buzzing me. Many of you do have chickens up there, and perhaps some of you could start to think about having chickens. Now, my little operation here is pretty condensed. It's in a small little coop. I've had up to six, seven, I think, and then I had a visitor who culled that back to zero, and then I had to start again. And most of my chickens come from people leaving the area and just knowing that they can bring them to me. So these two were kind of left behind when a family moved up to the mountains, and they remained here in the city, and they're loving it. They're doing really well. So I suppose what I wanted to do, I'm just going to take a seat here. What I wanted to do was just say that, you know, getting started with chickens, just take it step by step. You don't have to go massive. As I say, I've always had around the 4 to 6, but I've had 2 probably for a couple of years now. And that's ample as well. Like, invariably, I'll get a couple of eggs, and these are older chickens, so I don't always get an egg a day, but I'm not worried because they churn through the food scraps, which is the main thing. And one of the things that I would say is a good way to get your chickens used to food scraps is, particularly in the morning, take the scraps down, leave them in the coop to pick around and keep a little eye on what they like, and then just slowly acclimatise them. If they don't have grain in there, they will start to eat some of the scraps, and you can keep an eye on what they're eating, and make sure you slowly bring that in. What they don't eat, I always have a compost bin nearby. Because this is a small coop, the other coop I had was a cobbled one that I built out of just leftover materials, and I could walk in there and it was a lot easier, and I used to just rake up the food scraps and throw them all into the compost bin. That way I never had a vermin issue. Key thing to make sure, particularly in your parts, is that you definitely make the cage, the coop itself, vermin and predator proof. So I've got mesh going deep into the ground, and I don't have any issues, and I can leave the grain overnight, and then it's there for the chickens, so when they wake up in the morning they don't make much of a racket because they've always got some food. These are those sort of little things. And of course, don't leave the coop open during the day with the grain loose, because birds will come in, and that's where you can start to potentially bring in a pathogen. So unless you get one of those grandpa feeders where you teach the chickens that they tread on it, it lifts the gate, lifts the lid, they eat, and then it drops down. But what I do is they have a good go on the grain, and then during the day they free range, and then in the afternoon and evening when I bring them back to the coop, they get the grain again, and their mixed feed, and they get that balance between the two, so that they get plenty of minerals but also plenty of greens. Here in my backyard, they go round and they dig around the compost bins and get in under the mulch and find all sorts of fodder, and then I leave lots of, you can probably see here, I leave lots of ground cover so that they have a pick at the leaves here. This is just canola, and as you can see, it's also really good for the bees, because this is all just self-sown, all this canola here, and it just reseeds, regrows, and here we are, early spring, and it's chock-a-block full of flowers, and the bees are still pretty active at this time of the day, which is after 5:30. So yeah, they get that balance, and it's important to give them that balance. The other thing you can do, which is a really good little, it's quite simple, is find an area in the shade, particularly now that you're going into summer, so it's not getting the belting western sun, and you can either contain it, or just anywhere where you can sow some any sort of green, clover, rye, lucerne, wheat, sunflowers, and then allow it to grow up, and have a reinforcement mesh over the top, and then once it grows through, raise that up, and then once it grows through, you can lower it, and that way the chickens can mow off the top, and they get a wonderful free feed of greens that you don't have to bring in. All you're bringing in is the seed. I also do it, well, I actually do this for myself in these trays. So just in a nursery tray like that, you can, I put a bit of cardboard in the bottom so the soil doesn't fall out, and then I sow it with sunflowers or any other grains, and you can bring that out and actually let them just rip it to pieces, and that way they get, you just continuously grow these so that you've always got one on the grow. And then if you do the bigger area, if you do a couple of square meters, what that means is once they've cleaned it off, because the mesh is there, they can't rip it right out. So you'll get another growth out of it. And so 2 and a bit weeks later, 3 weeks, boom, it's up again. Lower the so you lift the mesh back up so the chickens can't attack it, and then when you're ready, drop it down, and happy days, they can have another feed. And that way they're getting a really good nutritious green. And like I say, mix it up to sunflowers sometimes, maybe a little bit of wheat, maybe a little bit of rye, some oats even, and they will love it. And then on the last run, you can just let them rip it up, let them eat down right to the roots, and they'll have a great time chipping and ripping. And then you can just that soil that's left with all the roots in it, I mean, that's a wonderful sort of compost additive. It'll really do wonders for your compost. So that's kind of a really easy way to provide greens for your chooks. And they're getting a good amount of green. They've got their grain, and then they've got their forage of wherever they go around during the day, chipping away, eating little slaters and little bugs and anything else they find. You really give them a good mix. And here, this is the compost bin. Actually, I'll just do it like that. This is the compost bin that, if I do give them food scraps and they haven't eaten them all, I just take it out and I put it in this bin. And distance-wise, you can see it's 3 steps. So even at the end of the day, I can just pick up anything that's not been eaten and throw it in there, and it's really easy. And I know that it isn't going to just sit there, because the other thing that it can do is it will attract the flies, and the next day you'll start to get a breeding cycle going, and then if you've got a fly breeding cycle, then you've got to try and break that. So you don't want to start it in the first place. So it's an easy one to then just take that away, throw it in the compost bin, put the lid back on the compost bin, and away you go. Actually, I haven't looked in the thing today because I've been out. Oh, hello. You girls are already in. Oh, there we go. Look, I had to disturb and there's an egg. They've been laying about 80 to 85 grammars. These are Australorps. Yeah, I didn't talk to you about varieties. As far as varieties go, I find the Australorps are a really, really good general all-purpose variety. They do they're pretty friendly. Some of them can be a little flighty, but they're not as moody as some other breeds. And they churn through the food scraps. Of course, depending, if you've got children, you might want to get some of the smaller breeds because they're a bit of fun. And there's a couple of really good, I did a really good story on Gardening Australia looking at chicken varieties. So I can send that link through with the video to Kylie and have a look at that. And look, if you've got any other questions, this is just a bit of a fun little video as part of the series, just talking to you about some of those key elements, the nutrition, the home. I mean, of course, I've got a home that's quite, it was set up, and because I was going away a lot, and after losing some, I didn't have the opportunity at that point to set up and build one, and I got this pre-made one, which has served the purpose well for me being on the road. And I can also move it if I want to, but I like it here because that's the other key thing. Make sure you got it under a tree, because particularly for the summer, and then of course for the winter you don't want drafts. You want it nice and protected in there, away from the prevailing winds, so when they are in there at night in the cold, they're nice and warm. So those key elements are a nice balanced grain, some nice greens that you actually grow and provide, fodder run that they can pick up all of the nutritious little tidbits that they find by free ranging. Of course, what you do with your scraps, ensuring that you do collect them and they don't end up creating other problems for vermin and flies. Make sure that you've got water in there, of course, that you replenish daily to keep a good supply up to them, particularly with your climate up there. They need plenty of water. The compost bin nearby so that you're not having to lug it long distances. And the other interesting thing is that, now and then I just lift, once the worms have infested the compost, or even if I get black soldier fly, they love it. And I generally operate this bin as a soldier fly larvae bin. So I get the large soldier fly larvae, and they'll be all over the lid, and I can literally just hit it on the side of the bin when the chickens come out, and they have absolute deluxe time. So there's a few ideas for you to think about, because that is a wonderful aspect of protein that you don't have to buy. Once you get the soldier flies, if you look after, there's my parents' tree frog. How's that? Literally within a day of, like the last day of August, bang, the frogs are back. Hello. So yeah, think about black soldier fly larvae as a wonderful food source, along with your homegrown greens as well. And then you'll have really healthy chickens. My girls, they have got shiny black coat, and the soldier fly will be kicking in for us down here now. They drop off during the winter because of the cold, as it will for you up there. But after that, once the temperature starts to rise, you get the soldier fly in there, and bang, happy days. So that's my cue from Perrin over there to wrap it up. Can't wait to see you on the next video and go through the next steps with the soil tests. Ciao for now, everyone. Hope you're all well, and happy spring.